Welcome to Conscious Mindset Fireside Chat Podcast. I'm Aletha Williams, your host. I am so happy to be here. We strive to bring topics that stimulates focus to help guide you so that you may feel confident and comfortable changing your wellness towards creating the best version of yourself. On this episode, I'll be interviewing Dr. Lynn Migdal. Dr. Migdal is a chiropractor, a dancer, a writer, but she graduated from chiropractic school in 1981. Her fresh outlook on disease prevention, holistic health, wellness, neurological fitness, spinal posture, and breath flow has helped thousands of people, young and old, to live to their highest physical, mental, and life potential. She's an expert in the field of family wellness, healing after trauma, abuse, tragedy, holistic resiliency, breath posture, and breath weight. Without further ado, please welcome Dr. Lynn Migdal. Lynn Migdal. Dr. Migdal, welcome to the Conscious Mindset Fireside Chat, and it's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for the invite and for the honor of turning more people on to the truth about holistic wellness and resiliency.
Yeah, a lot of people when we say the word holistic, they don't know what it is. Can you kind of just give us a little definition from your perspective what holistic wellness is?
Holistic wellness, holistic is just like the word whole. So all of you is another word for whole, holistic approach to wellness. See, in our society, people run, to fix their minds, and they might go to a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist, or they just into nutrition and they'll go to the health food store, or they're just in the gym trying to get physical fitness. But holistic wellness and fitness is when you're working on your mind, your body, your spirit, your diet, your posture, and your breath. And most people leave out the most important parts of all that. And it's wellness, that whole definition, and health. People kind of think in this country, in the United States, I'm sure you might be reaching other countries, but I can only talk about the United States. And that's, people think if they don't have any pain, they're healthy, and they just wait until the major symptom to take care of themselves. So holistic wellness means that you are doing things continually to increase your potential, for holistic.
Right.
Feeling greater and greater. People go, well, am I broken, Dr. Lynn? And I'm like, that's not why you're here. You're here to raise your levels of greatness, because you're already great. We have a doctor inside us that real smart and real intelligence. And if we get out of the way and assist this doctor in all those different ways, it's not so hard. Sometimes it's just about making small changes sometimes.
Yeah,
in different directions instead of just one major change in one.
I like what you said. It is a continuous journey of just being well for yourself. I just love that what you said about it. Just it's a continuous. It's not wait for the symptoms to happen and then go get fixed, but to continuously be concerned about being whole.
Yeah. United States is pretty much number one in heart disease and cancer. And this is the symptomatic sick world. And we know that there are athletes stroking out, good body, boy, got his body on the outside. And then poof, they didn't know that they were all clogged, or people go for tests every year and scans, and they get a clean bill of health. And then there's this terrible symptom, and they find that there were 20 years of cancer growing inside them, and they didn't even feel it. So how we feel, whether we have pain or not, it's important how we feel, but it doesn't really mean that everything is working to an optimum. So optimum health and optimum wellness is when you are your higher functions are working at an optimum, so it's about reaching higher and higher levels of potential. For me, it's mainly what I talk about is the connection between the brain and the cell area. To get the most out of our brains that we can. I don't like the statistic that we only use like 1/3 of our brain, most people. So after this recording, anyone who's watching your podcast is going to grow that energy potential from the brain to the cell. So holistic is really just when you are working on all parts of yourself. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Migdal, before we go into that depth of explaining that connection, I want to shift this interview into a couple of series. I want to talk about a couple of the books that you've written. You've written more about, what, 5, if I know for sure?
I don't know. I think the woman's book is second edition. I don't know if I count that again. It's I filmed e-courses and wrote books for the e-courses, but the books kind of came first.
Right.
So yeah, there's different levels of what's out there for me.
But I want to talk about, in particular, your Eternal Love book that explained the process of a little bit more about your personal life and the trauma that you went through, and how you discovered several healing methods you attached to your already experience as a chiropractor, knowing that the importance of healing, but also how to grieve healthier. And so I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the book itself and what it's about, and how you discovered that there's several things that I'm going to ask you about, in particular about the how it happened, the mudslide, and what happened during that mudslide. I would prefer that you would tell that part instead of me telling the audience that.
Oh, okay. Starting off where I usually end, but that's okay.
Oh no. Yes.
Well, it's in chiropractic school, when we learn about healing the nervous system, which I call the doctor inside you. We also learn what causes nerve pressure. As we said before, negative thoughts can pinch a nerve, negative postures can pinch a nerve, and toxic foods, too much toxins in the body, the neurochemistry can be off, and this could all make you sick. So the job of the chiropractor, for those of you that don't know, is not about removing back pain, but it's about checking the entire nervous system for nerve pressure. And then also teaching the patient how to keep the bone off of the nerve. So I was indoctrinated on how to heal the nervous system through chiropractic school. But when I went there, I didn't know anything about healing, because I was brought up totally like medicated most of my life. And I had been sexually abused and pedophiled and used food. I even have it on a slide as my savior. That's how I kind of survived my childhood. And in chiropractic school, it was an awakening to the chemical, emotional, physical, holistic approach to the nervous system. And my nervous system started to heal from those emotions, because the vagus nerve that we're going to talk about in a little while controls our hormonal reaction to stress, and the brain also, you have these cells that are also holding on to memories. And when your nervous system gets worked on, the trauma gets less. So chiropractic and anything that's really helping to clear the vagus nerve and the upper neck area helps people to get over trauma. So I was starting to heal my childhood in chiropractic school. So when I got out, I was really successful, and I was really busy, like right away. There was no downtime for me. They were like, You know, I was a high volume practitioner right away, working mostly with women and children, but we let the guys in too. But it was always about, like the next generation. How do we make the next generation better? Well, you teach little girls about their pelvis, and then you take care of pregnant women, and then you take care of the baby when the baby comes out, and on, so that the nervous system is tuned up. But I was very lucky because when I graduated chiropractic school, I met Sandra Ray, who is known as the mother of breath work. This was 1981. So many of you might be hearing about breath, or in yoga classes, they're telling you to breathe, or you're realizing that you're holding your breath. And I'm glad that this energy about the breath is finally coming, up as a fad, because fads go fast. And if we could take breath work and turn it into all day breath flow, then we'll really be healing. So in breath work, you breathe out, you breathe in a lot of oxygen, but you also are breathing out trauma. And I've seen so many things get better that couldn't get better, from chiropractic and acupuncture and massage and everything else, with just laying down and breathing. So as I've done a lot of work on myself, because I've done a lot of breath work, because in order to be, the saying, doctor heal thyself. So we were brought up with that in chiropractic school, that you had to keep getting tuned up and get clear in order to be a great person to clear other people. And in breath work, like psychotherapy, you go through your process of clearing your childhood and the core family. And it takes about 10 or 20 sessions before you master it and people can do it on their own. That's specifically rebirthing breath work. So I had the tools of breath work and chiropractic that kept on strengthening my nervous system, kept on making me more and more resilient to flow with all kinds of, anything that would come at me. If I was breathing in good posture, it wouldn't pinch a nerve. And what was funny was that, well, I don't know about funny, but because of the sexual abuse, I would say I still held on to the weight, even with the chiropractic helping me and the breath work helping me. And it wasn't until I went back to dance that I learned that pleasure was innocent inside my body. So it was like a whole other trip of being sexual and safe, trusting another person, because in ballroom, they're pushing you, they're pulling you, they're in, leader is in charge, and I'm doing the follow part. And I had a natural talent. I was a hustle dancer in the 70s and taught dance in the 70s, but then kind of went away from it. But around 11 years ago, 11 years ago was when I went back to ballroom and had this experience of pleasure, and 20 pounds went off of me without changing my diet. But I was like dancing like at home during the day, and then I would go out and dance during the day. But it was really like a whole understanding that pleasure was safe, because when you're pedophiled, or especially when you're pedophiled, even, more so than rape, as a young baby or whatever, there's a whole disconnect with, honoring, that you're innocent, and pleasure. And with dancing, with a really hot sexual, I call him he just, people would like look at us and think we are having sex, and we're having sex with ourselves, but we're dancing with each other.
I know exactly what you mean.
So it was, I got the experience of being really grounded in my sexuality for my first time. That's one of the reasons why I want to teach this. I don't want people to wait, until they're 56 years old, to clear this. And it did take that long, but I do want to say that we all heal in our own time period.
That's so true.
And we peel different things when we're safe to. But I had this great thing happen to me where the weight came off of me. I then did other things to lose weight, but I started using my breath to know whether I was overstuffing, And I started to use my breath after I lost all my weight to know if I was gaining weight. So I had another tool besides scales. And this is all happened before 2012. So for some reason, the universe made me as healthiest, happiest, and really clear in my body, in my mind, in my soul, and in my spirit before a mudslide in July 12th swallowed up my family and 2 homes in Canada. And if it wasn't for this breath flow and the love of the pleasure of this breath space, that I had a place of pleasure to go to amongst all the suffering, I'd be 300 pounds right now. Because I would eat myself with the emotions. So I think that the biggest message for our society is about pleasure, because we do control in our days how long we're going to suffer or whether we're going to choose pleasure. So eternal love connections. I'm sorry, that was a long preface, because I had to give you the front before I could give you the back end of my story. Is a self-help tool for anyone who is stuck in grief or trauma, of how to take care of yourself during the grief process. And it's, it's about my resilient journey, through the mudslide. And because parents who lose children, I don't know if you know this statistic, but we're kind of up there with the vets for post-traumatic stress disorder.
No, I did not.
Yeah, and it's no matter which way your children died, whether it was cancer or a shooting or a natural disaster or they killed themselves, everyone has different things that make it different. Like I have less anger than someone whose kids were shot.
Yeah.
I have less guilt than some parents whose kids went suicidal. But what I found that was that the poison of guilt is one of the biggest factors. So the book is to try to help soothe post-traumatic stress and hopefully prevent post-traumatic stress disorder, as I did on myself.
Well, thank you for that backstory. So without further ado, we're going to shift a little bit where you're going to share a few of your slides and try to explain to us the process. And one of the biggest things about holistic healing is that the education piece is good, but the application is better. And so you're going to show us, educate us a little bit, and then give us a few steps as to how to apply it to our daily.
I am so happy to share my screen, because I just wish that everybody, oh, look, the boxes that I see, I don't know about your recording, but I did it right for the boxes I see anyway, that you're not covering up anything. Are you seeing me at all?
I am seeing you on my right side, so you're doing good.
Like as a little box?
As a little box, and I can see I can see your computer with the side slides on the side, but a big one where we're seeing everything. So you can you can hit slideshow, and it actually will get rid of the little boxes off to the left if you want. Right there. Yeah. And
sometimes I go back and forth with the slides on and off, and then it gets nuts for some reason. So let's talk about the word resiliency, because it's a big word right now because of natural disasters and shootings. And let's face it, our nervous systems are facing things that is very, very high stress. So the more that you can learn about how to honor your nervous system, the doctor within, and take care of it, the stronger you're going to be in health, wellness, and be able to flow, from stress back to peace.
Yes.
And that's what we need. We need more peace and love on the planet. And when I talk about the breath, you're going to understand that that's an act. When you choose to take care of yourself, it's an act of self-love. And, it's also self-forgiveness. Sometimes we do all this work on forgiveness with other people, which is very needed, but we forget ourselves. And sometimes we're the biggest one, critic,
Yes.
of ourselves. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you the magic within, the miracle that lies within you, the nervous system. This meeting is being live streamed.
Yes, I
Whoa.
was going to let you know that we are ready for you. We are going to live stream you so that our audience can actually ask some questions when they're ready.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what that meant. Okay, so without further ado, let's go through Anatomy 101, because they kind of leave this out in school, but in chiropractic school, it was everything. Let me see if it's going to give me a pointer, because you don't always, I didn't realize I put this on. What I did today was, okay, so I got a red one, so you're going to see that here. Okay, so here's a model of the skull. And you can see, we know that we were built with hard bones to protect something very soft, your brain. And no one had to convince you that your brain was important, because if you hit your head, or if someone's holding a newborn baby, what's the first thing everyone says? Support the head, take care of the head. And that's what your bones are for. The bones of the spine and the bones of the skull are to protect this nervous system. So we're going to first start with the autonomic nervous system over here and talk about the spinal nerves very briefly. I'm not going to go deep. I'm just going to give you an overview so that you understand that what I'm talking about is real, that if we cut you open right now, or if you Googled any of this, these are not chiropractic slides. These are slides of your own anatomy. So please Google it, and please look it up and look at it again, or review this recording, because it's really important for parents to know, for children to know, for everyone to know, to understand why we have to take care of our nervous system if we want to be healthy, if we want to be happy, if we want to have peace. So it kind of is the most holistic system in the body, because it's running all the other systems. So in the back, we have the spinal column that you're seeing here. And the nerves go through little tiny holes in the spine, and they go out and they feed all the organs. So if we start down here at the lower back, the lower back nerves go down the legs. It goes to the reproductive system. It goes to the urinary system. Then we get to the high low back and the low mid back. And that goes, to your pancreas. And the mid back holds a lot of your digestive system, goes to the stomach. So everything comes down from the brain. So how much hydrochloric acid your stomach makes, again, function of the brain, communicating to the stomach. And how much your bowels move, again, function of the nervous system, all communicating right back and forth to the brain. So holistically, you take care of the whole spine, not just where the complaint or the symptom is, because one vertebrae is on top of the other. It's kind of like a bunch of building blocks. You have to balance the bottom and you have to balance the top, the two most important parts. That's cranial sacral therapy. You've heard of that. The sacrum is one of the bones that is in the pelvis.
Right.
And so how much insulin or, your body's making, and your blood sugar levels. Total function of the nervous system comes out here, right in the mid to lower mid back, right here, right to the pancreas, telling it what to do. So I don't understand, why by now, because I've been out of school for 41 years teaching this, that anyone should be on any kind of diabetic medicine without also taking care of the flow from the brain to the spine to the pancreas. I don't tell people to stop their medicine, but add this, add what you can control. So we look at the body a little different. Medicine and surgery is kind of from outside in, and I'm talking to you right now, deep inside you, where your higher power is and where this nervous system is. And then the upper back here goes to your lungs, and also goes to your heart. So we're hooked up electrically. Think of this as a telephone pole, your spinal column, nerves are kind of wires. And up here is kind of AT&T, or whatever service you might have, the brains of the communication. Over here in the middle is showing you where the vagus nerve comes out. So the vagus nerve is another thing that's really hot in research right now, but I learned this 41 years ago and it was proven a long time ago, but it's being picked up again in research for post-traumatic stress and the trauma that everyone's under. It really doesn't have to be researched. You just have to start to take care of it. They want to talk about stimulating the vagus nerve, this nerve here, right. And I'm going to introduce your vagus nerve needs to flow properly. Okay, so holistic flow is what creates holistic resiliency and wellness. You want your breath to flow and you want your nervous system to flow and also your cranial nerves. This vagus nerve comes out of the brain, does not go down the spinal column, goes in front on this picture over here on the right. So it comes out in the back of the skull, and then by the jaw and by the ear, it shoots out front into the throat area. And that's why this is one of the most affected nerves by the poor posture of cell phones, which will be a thing that will carry through probably to the rest, of this class, because it's just so important.
You know, doctor, one of the things that when I learned about the vagus nerve, and it's so important that the audience understands the importance of what the vagus nerve does for our intuition and letting us know that something is not right in our body, is it goes all the way down to our gut. And so sometimes when we stop eating or we don't feel like eating or we feel like throwing up, that the vagus nerve is actually trying to let us know something is not right.
Yeah, and they also say from now on, listen to your gut feelings, because they found brain cells, in the digestive system. So this picture on the right shows all the organs that the vagus nerve goes down, but something that you need to understand as far as the head tilt is concerned. So the closer to the brain, the more power there is. So if I only had 2 seconds to just, to check everybody or to teach anyone, I would spend the most time on your head posture and on your neck posture, because it's the most important part of the nervous system. It's where everything begins. And that's where the power is. So this area right here, okay, can you see that?
Yeah. No, we can't see where
you're pointing. When we go back off of the screen, I'll bring this back up. But this is the skull, and there's a hole in the skull and the bones where, here's the brain sits in the skull, and then the brainstem comes through, and that's why right here, the hole is bigger and it gets smaller as it goes down. So if you take care of the top, it's going to help you take care of everything all the ways down to the bottom. and that's why your neck and head is so important. But the vagus nerve travels down in front of the throat, and then it has to go underneath the clavicle bone. So if you have twisted shoulders besides a twisted head, it can have pressure there and not flow properly. And then it goes and feeds the heart and the lungs, and then it pierces the diaphragm. It travels all the ways down, and as major communication down to the colon, telling the brain what's going on in the colon, and it goes down to the pubic bone, the bottom of the pelvis, and it has hormonal reactions to the stress. So when your vagus nerve isn't right, you're overreacting to stress. And I believe that is the major reason for the rage, one of the major reasons, a physical reason, that there's a physical reason going on with this pinching with the cell phones, making people more angry and depressed, and not getting, not flowing with things back to peace, because the vagus nerve is controlling the cortisol and everything that's going on. It also controls the immune system and inflammation levels. Everything, more words that people seem to be talking about more and more, and they want to go to the diet, which is important, to not eat, inflamed foods, because they have, been told they have inflammation. And I'm always going like, well, what are you angry with, or who are you angry with, and what are you doing to your vagus nerve?
I if I may share quick stories, I experienced vagal dysfunction because of the trauma of living with a dysfunctional marriage. And for 15 years, my inflammation marker kept on getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where inflammation became my breath, kind of. And so I had to go all the way back to chiropractic care and osteopathic care to really settle down the nerves, and also learn that my thoughts, even the way I was thinking and the way my body was holding and posturing, was actually causing a lot of pain, in particular along my rib cage. When I would hold my breath, I would actually be pushing some of my ribs out of place. And so this is a very important topic to talk about, the importance of how this vagus nerve interacts with our body, and how stress itself can actually throw us out of whack.
Yeah, so the thoughts we think have chemistry.
Yes.
And if you're not doing the work to clean up your past trauma, and holding on to it, then you're probably also creating future trauma if you haven't cleared the patterns of what's going on. So if you're stuck in anger and resentment, that could turn your blood acidic and make lots of pain and lots of problems. You could be on the best alkaline, organic, raw diet and not take care of your anger and resentment emotionally, and not have the results that you think you're going to have just by eating alkaline. So we really need a balanced pH. People, they get a little crazy, but if we're stuck in the future and we're constantly worrying, that will also pinch a nerve. So the safest place to be is appreciation and gratitude in the now.
Yes, I couldn't have said it any better.
It's that the nervous system loves forgiveness, and then beyond that is appreciation in the now. And that everything else, is either past or not. But if there is cancer, they know that people are holding on to resentment. And that's why they built all these extra hospitals, psychotherapy wards, and there's more and more retreats with forgiveness for people to let go. You could feel the trauma. It's not, when I talk about forgiveness, I'm never saying that the abuser, was doing something right. You do forgiveness selfishly to heal yourself. Right. Because you're hurting yourself by not doing forgiveness work. And then we end up being the abuser inside our own heads.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you what my mother used to say to me, but I could also tell you, like, why am I still repeating that in my own head, right. To myself. So this work is really about, when you go to the chiropractor and they move the bone, they free up the vagus nerve, and your job, because it's a partnership where when you choose natural healing, whether it's a breath worker or an acupuncturist or a massage therapist and stuff, why isn't it holding? That's when you start to look at what's going on in the neurochemistry of the body, either with your thoughts or your diet, or not enough water, or what's going on with your blood sugar. So it's really about balancing everything. Will help the acupuncturist and help the chiropractor to help you.
Well said.
Again, you're just really, going back, to balance.
Well said. Can't wait to see you on the slides. This is so informative already.
Okay, so now we're going to connect why the spinal posture and the head posture is extremely important for your brain to connect with the organ and the cells, and also for oxygen, and for it to have a balance between the oxygen and CO2. And that's why we tell people that you should always relax on breathing out, because we know hyperventilation is pushing, on the expiration. So on the left-hand side is your cell phone man. And this is the normal, average, common, horrible mistake that mankind is suffering from. We're acting like this phone weighs 500 pounds. And even those that press in the gym, the 300, 500-pound weights cannot pick up the phone. A water bottle is heavier, and yet we get this to our mouth. And we'll have some fun if we have some time left over on this, but the anatomy is really important to get. So picture's worth 1,000 words, and that's why I love sharing my screen, so that I can teach you this anatomy. So we see the red that's going on the picture on the left, showing that the neck is inflamed. You might not have neck pain. You might not have numbness. And a lot of people who say, well, I don't have text neck. I don't have techno neck. I have no symptoms. Again, back to the symptom. When this head is forward like this and down, it weighs 30 pounds more. There's 30 pounds more pressure on your brainstem.
Wow.
Yeah. And babies are looking and watching movies like this. I mean, we talked about this with reading, pick the book up. It's nothing new to chiropractors to teach people about their neck posture, to open up the nerves to the neck. But now with the vagus nerve overreacting and going crazy, that's why I don't understand when they say stimulate it, they want to stimulate it so that it will tell you to relax. Where if you just let it flow, and let your breath flow and your nerve flow, the vagus nerve flows and will calm you down.
Right.
One of the best simple things that you can do besides changing your breath and nerve posture is to ice the vagus nerve. The whole vagus nerve. You want a big, long ice pack because it's the wandering longest nerve in the body. And I'm going to show you right now. So I said it comes out of the brain here, right? And then I said it goes in the front, right by the jaw. If he's getting bad information and clenching his jaw and his head is down this way, number one, he can't take a deep breath, which we're going to talk about. Number two, he's pinching the vagus nerve here. He's compressing the vagus nerve here by the shoulders forward. And look the way these ribs look.
Oh my goodness.
Compared to the guy over here. So the more open you are, the more space. We're going to then switch this whole conversation from anatomy to just thinking of breath space, openness, open throat, open heart.
Yeah.
An open heart, open chest. Then there's all this room for the lungs to contract and expand. You see, they're showing the spine on this picture here, which is really important because your ribs hook right into the spine in the back.
That's right.
So when you get into an open space, an open breath space in your neck, in your throat, for your windpipe, because this thing right here, what do you think's happening over here on the picture on the left?
It's compressing.
It's compressing. And with this guy here, his shoulders are open and his ribs don't look like them over here, do they?
No, they don't.
No. So his lungs and diaphragm have all the room and all the rib muscles and the vertebrae. Everything's in the perfect space to build with every breath your extensor muscles in the back. And these muscles that attach into the vertebrae here is what holds you up. So what helps you fight gravity. This guy's going to be, like falling over in another 20 years. So, I'm not anti-aging. I'm about aging gracefully.
There's one thing that we should point out about the breath is that we don't take in 100% oxygen every time we breathe in. So the percentage of oxygen that goes in, and then we are in proper posture, we're taking in way much less. So I believe, if I remember correctly, we're taking in about 65% of the oxygen goes into the body. We're losing 25% of it, period. So we're not taking in 100%. And so that if we're only taking in 65% and then we're doing the posture like onto the left, I bet you we're taking in way less. Able to
that reminds me of the statistic that we're only using 15%, 30% of our brain.
Right.
Let's talk about wholeness and full breaths to get as much oxygen as you possibly can. But CO2 is just as important. It's about the balance, like people forget about balance, like alkaline versus acidity. It's about pH balance. CO2, oxygen, it's about balance. And a lot of times because of yoga, people are blowing up below the diaphragm. They're breathing into their bellies, not understanding that there's no air there. Your colon's there, and the time is up. So they just get the breath halfway. They're not breathing up into the lungs and here by the clavicle bone. What did I talk about? The vagus nerve has to go through the clavicle bone. Lungs end at the clavicle bone. That's why your shoulders need to be back and down, besides the windpipe with your neck, being round. Then the diaphragm, right here. Its job is to push your bowels down and a lot of your stuff out of the way of the lungs. So if you have a big belly and your colon's not right, you'll feel great when you clean out. And that's why Pleasurable Breath Weight, which is a program and a book.
Yes. We're going to talk about that
e-course.
later.
It's also an e-course if you don't want to see me live. Is about really falling in love with the pleasure of the full breath. Because when the diaphragm has all the room to do its job and the lungs can open and expand, it's a pleasurable experience. So the next time your head is down, let's see what I have here, if I have any more anatomy.
Can you go back to that slide? I have one quick question for you. So if you take a look at this, you mentioned about pH and the breath itself, but from doing biofeedback and from understanding the importance of the breath, some people, due to stress, they can either underbreathe or overbreathe. So when you breathe too fast, you hyperventilate, and it makes your body, I don't recall, is it acidic or alkaline? But
they're only breathing too fast. They're pushing on expiration.
Right.
So you could do fast breathing. So I'm involved with the International Breathwork societies and programs, and I've been a speaker on them. So I've been with people from all over the world, and there are different thoughts about this, and about nose breathing versus mouth breathing versus in and out through the nose and mouth. I'm going to put a difference between therapeutic breath work when you're with a breath coach, laying down and breathing, out of the mouth and not pushing hard on expiration, is extremely therapeutic. Well, they'll tell you never breathe through the mouth in certain countries and certain researches. So they're saying that the pH changes and that there can be certain contractions that go on in the body because of it. And if that was true, that would happen every time I lay down and breathe that way through my mouth. And after watching thousands of people breathe all over the world, I just want to tell you that it's really about the push on expiration. It's not about this. So breathing through the mouth is the same as like drinking. I can see that there's something wrong with my camera. Maybe it's because I dropped my computer. That could be it. So I drink from mason jars because the mouth is big and open more, and I drink more than if I would drink through a water bottle and sip it all day. In therapeutic breath work, just the rebirthing breath work that you absolutely need supervision at least 20 times with somebody before you go off and do it on your own is really, you suck it in a lot from your mouth. You take it in a lot and you let it out fast. You don't hold it, but you do not push. There are some different types of therapy where they are pushing and forcing themselves into, hyperventilation. So it's really specific for different therapies, but all day long, there's nothing wrong with taking these full breaths in and out.
Love it.
And that's, I'd be happy if it just comes up a little bit, because halfway, 3/4 is better than halfway, and full is better than 3/4. I think these statistics, it's just, yes, people
We're not going to go there because we're limited for time, but we're going to go on to the next slide and see what we have. I know there's so many different opinions out there, but yes, it is. I really appreciate the way you answered that. That was exactly what I wanted our audience to hear about, the importance of the push and the breath itself.
Yeah, but I also want to tell you that, and all around the world that I've traveled with breath work, there's been vascular surgeons and different people getting up to the stage, even saying that they're sorry they ever put a bag over someone's head, because they think, they've been watching all these people preach, and it's just very therapeutic. There's the breath therapy, and then there's the all day breath flow. And that's what we're going to concentrate on, right now. But I need you to know that breath therapy is fantastic for anyone who has been traumatized. And if anyone wants more information on that, it's just my name.com. There's a lot to learn on my website. There's videos on my website. And they could just go to the website and learn more about breath, and the posture if we run short of time.
Yeah.
The reason I'm talking about this and really coming out with this is because people need to start now. It's not about just like the symptom that we talked about with the body. Yeah. It's the same thing with all these disasters and crisis and the weather changes and different things, the shootings and everything that's going on. We have to strengthen our nervous systems now so that we can flow during possible rescue and recovery, which is a very hard time for people.
Yes.
And then after. I mean, my anniversary is 10 years. And you need to know, I lay down and breathe and feel and breathe and feel. It's so important to feel our feelings. So it's not about not feeling. It's about what you do with your feelings. And I just feel that I was lucky about losing all that weight, but finding pleasure because I was able to choose that over, stuffing my face.
So true.
Which would be my normal reaction. So Love Lost and Found, Eternal Love Connections is the book that you asked me about. And it's about my resilient journey. Again, a book, a course, or a program to take. But what it's about is that love is never lost because it never dies. So I teach people to connect, whether it's divorce or death, so that they can strengthen with love. So the reason I'm thriving instead of merely surviving like most parents is because of this love connection that I have found. Yes, so I always say, took a mudslide. Please don't wait to find the love within to connect with, because that's what breath connection is. And that's what breath flow is.
That's so true.
And you were talking about the books. This is my little baby book, and this is for children. This is a children's version of Eternal Love Connections, about food and verbal abuse and cell phone abuse. So anyone who's got children, it's good for like a 8 to 13-year-old, smart 8-year-old. And it's just a fantasy. The first 9 pages is my verbal abuse and my eating problems. That's me, the little girl. But these kids, they learn how to hold up their phone and breathe. They learn about good thoughts, good food, everything you want your kids to know, to build wellness and health. I want parents to read it to their kids with their kids, because the parents are also, abuse is handed down.
Yes.
And this abuse, that's what this book shows. And that's why I want the parents to read it too,
Absolutely.
To do it with their kids. Again, they can always go to the website to learn more about the books. Oh, look, I didn't move this slide and the faces are over there to see me. But this is just so that I'm not faking it, and the weight has stayed off for 11 years using the aid and tool of the pleasure of breath flow and breath connection with your own love.
Yeah. Dr. Migdal, thank you so much for sharing that. I have a few more questions. I was wondering if you'd be more open to talk about about 3 of the chapters in your ebook that you gifted me, and I really appreciate that, on Eternal Love Connection. There's a few things that showed up in there that would end this series very well. Would you be open to answering a few questions from that? All right. Well, before we do that, and I want to tell our audience that we're going to end with a sample breath work after this, just because what we're talking about could be triggering for some people, because they're thinking about their trauma and how they're holding the trauma in their body. And so we want to end with a movement solution of Dr. Migdal's sample breath work. And remember, it takes 10 sessions with a professional to really
10 to 20.
10 to 20. Thank you. To really see how it could be beneficial to your health. So without further ado, I want to talk about chapter 3 in particular. Chapter 3 was when you started diving into your discoveries about healing. And you talked about touch, You talked about that 100% surrender in ballroom dancing. You also talked about the vagus nerve and the breath along the spine and crying. So I was wondering, can you just tell us a little bit more about the importance of touch? That is very important. I talk about this all the time with my audience, that touch therapy, even touching yourself, is important to your wellness.
It's, sometimes there's nobody else to touch you, so it's best to touch yourself. The nervous system goes all the ways to the skin, and I teach self-massage in the cranial bones, for people to start to get to feel, how that is. Ballroom dancing with a partner, is total touch. As I said before, it's it's really about surrendering, the art of surrendering, and I can't say enough about it because people don't get touched, and I live alone and I don't have a significant other, and that's why I go out dancing.
Yeah.
And it's great to have a safe place, where you can feel safe, be touched, and pulled and pushed around on the dance floor. I mean, that's a rough way of saying it, because I love to glide and fly, with these partners of mine. I'm going out tonight, to ballroom. It's one of the most holistic therapies I can think about. As far as crying, I can give you a tip right now, because people are medicated. They say they cry too much, and they tell that to the doctor and they'll get something to stop crying. And I'm not going to talk about medicine, but I'm going to say, if you are sobbing, I think you should take care of your neck and take a towel and roll it up in a roll, and stick it behind your neck. Support the neck curve and lay down and cry. Because if you're doing this, it's like a car accident. You're giving yourself whiplash. So only chiropractor would tell you that this is a safe way to cry. Crying is wonderful. There's nothing wrong with crying. It's a release. If you are not going for specific therapeutic breath work, I just want to say that the breathing stuff that I'm going to present is stuff to do all day long, and you don't need anyone, and the results are instantaneous because it's in the now.
Right. In chapter 6, you dive into green therapy. I just absolutely love that.
Dive into what?
Green therapy, nature.
Nature therapy. Can't say enough about that. That's why they're taking the vets outside. That's why people have animals. Mother Nature is there. And, one of the reasons I didn't have the anger of like someone whose kids got shot was, how can I be mad at a mountain, or Mother Nature? We were environmentalists, she took 3 environmentalists, so at first it was kind of like, she took my babies, and then I realized that Mother Nature gives her babies all the time. We're taking her babies, so the surrendering, to the real mother, Mother Earth, the colors that are outside, flowers, trees, sky, water. Anytime you're outside, the nervous system goes into harmony. So when you're not feeling good, you're probably inside.
Wow.
It's hard to feel bad and be out in Mother Nature and walk. And by the way, walking is still the #1 exercise.
Barefoot walking too.
Outside. Outside, in nature. And I do my prayer walks. Everybody speeds past me, as I'm walking, and I'm praying at the same time as I'm walking in appreciation. So it's my appreciation time, but it's something that put me in the now. And I want to say, Mother Nature, from what she took or swallowed, I would say that she's given me back so much.
Dr. Lynn, you said something in your book about while you were dealing with your grief, that Mother Nature took something, but in return, in your healing process, because of your daughters, nursing your daughters, you were able to know what it feels like to instill that love inside of your body. And it was that love, that agape love, that started your healing back from
Yeah,
that.
that's a big point. That's that tagline. It took a mudslide, don't wait. For me, it was self-love inside my body. And that was the gift of the mudslide. That you know, and it was given to me right before. We were talking like it all happened right before. So I wasn't taught to love your body. I just wasn't taught it, you know, and I was able to love people even though I didn't love myself. So that phrase, you know, I probably, you know, did the opposite of. But in pregnancy with my daughters, I knew that consciously I had to be in a state of love for them to be healthy, you know, and the same thing with breastfeeding. I knew I had to be in a state of love and consciously love and peaceful to have great, delicious, wonderful breast milk.
Yeah.
But once they were out and not breastfeeding, I went back to me not loving what's inside me. And so when the mudslide happened, it was almost, you know, people talk about the broken heart and the scar, and everybody's so sad around me, and it's hard for me because I'm not sad. I don't hang out there. I hardly use the grief word, by the way. And everyone's in a different level. Now, you know, a lot of people not ready for where I'm at, but it's because of my history of working on myself. But the love factor was that my heart was broken open to more love than I could possibly ever imagine. And using this breath flow, connecting with your own love, which with some people is just another name for God or goddess, universal innate intelligence inside you. To connect with that is to connect your breaths, because when you're holding your breath, everything is just stuck. So self-love, that's why I said, don't wait, you know, for a major crisis, you know, to achieve higher and higher, you know, levels of love. And it was also my daughter that came to me very quickly, because I was sobbing on the couch, hurting my neck before I decided to put a towel down. I'm like, what am I doing? And this emotional pain, and I don't want to give myself physical pain plus emotional pain. Take care of your neck, doc. And I was crying, you know, I can't believe you're gone. Can't believe you're gone. It was probably in the first year. And all of a sudden I heard a loud voice go, because we're not. When I wasn't connecting with them on a spiritual level, even though I do this with patients. I wasn't making that spiritual connection. And my younger daughter said to me, Mom, where do you think love is? You think you lost love? Where do you think it is? So I'm laying there on my couch, like not knowing the answer. I was like, oh, here? Like it was like, I don't want people to wait till they're in their 50s to get this. Okay. So the connection, it's called Eternal Love Connections, was the book, because if I connect with them in the way they are in spirit, spiritually, I'm blissing instead of missing.
Exactly. And that's what I teach in my spiritual, with my clients. When I connect with their spiritual side, that's where I bring them, is to that love. And we're going to switch over to the last 10 minutes, Doctor, where you're going to do the breath work. But I want to end with this. You said something in the, I think in chapter 8, where your dreams became bigger than the events of your past, and that's what helped you to keep going and being present in the now, but your dreams became bigger than the pains of your past.
That's Joel Osteen's quote. You know, that we don't move forward, you know, from hardship and trauma until our dreams are bigger than our painful past. And when I graduated chiropractic school, it was about saving future generations through better deliveries, you know, and better breast milk and better menstrual cycles, and empowering women so they can be as good as they can be in holistic parenting. And the mission was always women and children. So when my children graduated ahead of me, that's the way I like to say it, you know, I went back to work really fast. Actually, a lot of the books were written and the looking up movement and a lot of things were done in post-traumatic neurological shock. I was a high achiever where other people lay in bed and don't get up. I still went to the office. It was actually great for me to go. But so I worked on a toddler, you know, and checked here. You might be able to see it bigger now that I'm not a little square. So babies get adjusted with what pressure you would put on an eyeball.
Right.
Okay. So I said, what? Babies get adjusted? Yeah, in the womb and out of the womb. And
Right.
sorry if you weren't adjusted in the womb, but out of the womb as soon as possible. So I check the baby's skull and neck and clear out the baby, and the baby gets off the table. Baby was toddler, so he was able to get off the table, go sit down, you know, whines a little bit. So the mother throws the phone, you know, at the baby, puts on a movie. Baby's head is all down and twisted, watching the movie. I'm on my stool, checking the mother, looking at the baby. And I'm like, what am I doing? I can help more people with knowledge.
Yes.
People need to know what I know so they can take care of themselves and take care of their children.
So true.
Because this is happening at a very young level. So that's what got me out, was the fact that children, you know, are doing this forward head and twisting and everything else that's going on. And that was my mission to, like, okay, I was pre-trained and I got to give it away.
Well,
I was gifted and I got to give the gift.
Well, I thank you so much for this knowledge. We're going to end with a stand-in, but before we stand up, I want to say thank you so much for who you are and the gift that you're using to help others heal. And it was a breath of knowledge. And if anyone has any questions, still put it in the chat box below, and we will gladly respond to you in kind. Should you want to reach out to Dr. Migdal, again, it's Dr. Lynn Migdal, right? .com, right?
Yeah.
That's right. And so you can reach out to her and she will respond to you in kind. So without
Yeah,
further
you
ado,
could probably put that in the chat.
Sure. I sure
So
will.
you know, people, you kept on saying breath work because that's a word now. That's what people associate that. And it's kind of like, well, I'm saying breath flow, I'm saying breath space. And I'm kind of like, well, what about breath play? Because people don't like to work. So, and if breathing is so hard, you know, that you have to work at it, I might as well hold my breath. Besides, people are running around going, there's no time to breathe. So we're going to go over a little bit of posture work. How much time do we have? So I know how much
we
time
have 6 minutes.
Okay, let's give you a New York.
Let's put it this way. If we want to do a more in-depth demonstration, we can do a master class, but we would have to arrange it with her schedule, if you are open to that. But I would just say this. If you're interested, we won't know that you're interested unless you put it in the comments below. Okay? All right, okay. Let's do it.
Okay. So, and because I only see you right now, you want to get your shoulders back and down and your ears in alignment with your shoulders.
Uh-oh, let me try to get my hair out the way. There we go.
Okay. So what we're suffering from is the head in front of the shoulders.
Uh-oh.
And a lot of people bring their shoulders back, but they leave their head forward. So if the head is near the shoulders, then the nerves are freer to move. Okay, so some people put their head all the ways back when I say look up at the phone. And if you put your head all the ways back, sometimes you can hurt the windpipe and not be able to breathe either. So neutral, you have to find where neutral is for you, where the breath is easiest. Okay, if you're in good posture, turn back to me. Okay, so I'm going to go over the breath and I'm going to disappear a little bit here. Okay, the vagus nerve that we talked about, because I'm talking about breath and vagus nerve, because you need to really wise up about both. and the vagus nerve controls the breath. So it's a win-win. All right. So the vagus nerve comes through here, and that's why you're putting your head and your neck and shoulders in alignment. It goes in the front, and it has to go under your clavicle bone. That's why twisting or just mousing to one side or just checking your phone all the ways to one side all the time, one-sided beings, we're twisting this up and hurting the space because you want to be as wide as you can be and as tall as you can be.
One of our audience have a question for you about that, Doctor.
Let me go. You want me to do this fast, and then you'll have time for questions?
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so the vagus nerve comes through here and it feeds the lungs, okay, and the heart. Then it goes to the diaphragm. So everybody, just take your hands on your rib cage here and follow it down. I'm a little bit overate, a lot of sugar. It's just been my birthday, so you might need to push in a little bit when you're holding on to some weight by the belly area here. But just dance your fingers into the middle, and above it or right there will be your diaphragm. Just put one hand there, and then put one hand lower than that. When you breathe, your hands should go in and out. So the breath goes up, the diaphragm goes down. Check that out. Take a deep breath in. Diaphragm goes down, the air fills up the lungs. So it's the job of the diaphragm to take all your intestines and get it out of the way to make more space for the lungs. So again, one hand up here, one hand on your belly. If you have a big belly, your hand is going to go out and in and out and in. If it's flat and your colon's not that bad, it's just going to go down. So one hand, when you breathe in, it could just feel like it's just going a little down. If you can't feel it, you might want to go lower or higher. Everybody's anatomically different right now. But when you touch your breath, you're talking about touch, right? Let's say you're too shy to give yourself a massage. Touch your breath. It'll bring you to peace right away, breath connection. So there's different breaths. And you have to find during the day what's the easiest for you to get that breath all the ways up here. If you're spending time in the belly, then you won't be able to fill up the whole lungs. So let's breathe in and out through the nose and touch the breath right here by the chest. Okay? If you just hit your chest a couple times, you'll wake right up, okay? Touching is very important to wake up the body. We won't go into tapping. We can do that at another seminar about the tapping. But breathe in and out through your nose and feel the direction that the ribs are taking your hands to move in and out. So on inspiration, it's expanding. On expiration, it's contracting. So we got like an accordion, opening on the breath in, closing on the breath out. Opening on the breath in and closing on the breath out. Now let's breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth and feel it. Blow it out through the mouth gently. In through the nose, out through the mouth.
Feels like a
one hand on your chest and one hand here. Okay, this is the accordion turned vertically. As I said, you need to be as tall as you can be and as wide as you can be to breathe fully. That's the posture. In and out through the mouth. Gentle in expiration. And if this all seems like work for you, then you might need to change your posture. You might need to go to your edge of your chair Spread your legs, give your diaphragm some room in your belly, some room to get out of the way so you can breathe this up. But what's most important is to breathe this up.
Yeah.
So I'd like everybody to get their cell phone out right now and make believe that you're checking the phone to one side. Come on. Yeah, not a selfie. Okay. So put your head all the way down and to one side. You could be in the car or at your office or whatever, and you're just checking that phone. It went beep, beep, beep. Oh my God, I got an email. Somebody's texting me. I better run and get my phone. Okay, so the phone is down, your head is down and twisted. Take a breath right now. Maybe that's the 60% they're talking about. I don't know. I just want to tell you to put the phone in two hands here. You know, I really think it's the setting that I did. I messed up my own setting. Get your shoulders back and down, roll it around, relax these shoulders. Relax your shoulders and bring the phone up to eye level without the shoulders going forward. Okay, so let's make believe it's a water bottle. Put it in front of you in the middle, two hands, bring it up to your mouth. Oh my God, that was hard. Wasn't that hard? Okay, and down. Let's pretend this is a brush and you're going to brush your hair.
Okay.
Come on, you can get these hands up. They don't do anything funny. Get your shoulders back and down, and let's breathe the phone up without changing this beautiful open posture. Take a breath. This is all your choice now.
All right. Wow.
But touching the breath and reconnecting to love, reconnecting to spirit. Breath means in spirit. So when you're consciously connecting with your breath, you're also making a conscious connection to reconnect yourself back to spirit.
That's a great way to end this. We're going to end with one question that's on Facebook right now. One of our audience says, can upper cervical adjustments impact the vagus nerve and our breath long term?
Yes. And again, we're talking about, you know, adjusting these bones, the upper cervical bones, and the atlas is, you know, the most important because that's the first bone that's next to the brain stem. But if you don't change your posture, the answer is no. If you don't change your thoughts, the bones are going to go back out. And if you're clenching your jaw and have a lot of head tilt, you're undoing what the chiropractor does. So yes, it clears up the vagus nerve. And I just want to quickly say, if you look up post-traumatic stress disorder, they'll say it's unresolved child trauma, that then adult trauma added to it. If I wasn't adjusted away, my childhood trauma with the chiropractor, with the atlas and the vagus nerve, you know, and opening up my breath, then I wouldn't have gone through and flown through the adult trauma so easily.
Wow. This was a 60 minutes full of this conscious mindset conversation. And I hope that this educated those who were listening and inspire them to just go forward towards their wellness. And so, Dr. Migdal, thank you so much for this. Get her books. You can't put them down when you start reading, especially that Eternal Love one. The breathwork one, I absolutely love that. I haven't finished it yet, to be honest, but I am working on it. And I really enjoy you're a great writer and a great doctor, a great person. So I'm glad to be in your.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor to spend an hour with you. And thank you so much for spreading the truth.
Yes.
Being a truth messenger yourself and spreading this, because everyone can do this. Everyone could pick up their phone and breathe.
Yes.
It's a choice.
Yes. So farewell, everyone. Doctor, stay right there, but farewell, everyone on Facebook.
Bye.